So, the European Union has just passed a massive new law for artificial intelligence. And this is a big deal because it's the world's first major rulebook for AI. It could literally change how this technology is built and used across the entire globe. So, let's dive in and break down what the EU AI Act is all about.
Have you ever been turned down for a loan? Or maybe passed over for a job and you just had that nagging feeling that some algorithm made the call? It's often totally impossible to know why an AI decided what it did. That's the whole black box problem, and it can leave you feeling kind of powerless, maybe even like you've been treated unfairly.
And that's exactly why regulators are stepping in. The big concern is that this lack of transparency just kills trust. If we're going to build confidence in a technology that's changing our world this fast, we've got to have some kind of framework to make sure it's used safely and fairly. And so, here it is, the EU AI Act. This isn't just another regulation. It's the world's first ever comprehensive legal rulebook for AI. The main goal? Pretty simple, actually. It's all about fostering AI that we can trust, making sure these powerful systems are safe, and that our basic rights are protected while all this tech keeps evolving.
So how on earth do you regulate something as complicated as AI? Well, instead of trying to regulate the technology itself, which is, incredibly complex, the law does something pretty smart. It regulates the use of AI. It basically sorts different AI applications into categories based on how much risk they could pose to us, to actual people. And that brings us to the real heart of the act, this pyramid of 4 different risk levels. Just think of it like a sliding scale. The higher the potential risk to our rights and our safety, the tougher the rules get. Right at the tippy top of that pyramid, you've got systems that are just considered an unacceptable risk. These are AI applications that are seen as a clear and present danger to our fundamental rights and safety. And the solution here? It's simple. They're banned, completely. So what kind of stuff gets the boot? Well, we're talking about things like government-run social scoring. Think Black Mirror. Or AI that's designed to manipulate people in harmful ways or to exploit their vulnerabilities. Even things like emotion recognition software in your office or at school. All of that is considered a line you just can't cross, so it's prohibited in the EU.
Okay, coming down one level, we get to the high-risk tier. Now, these systems aren't banned, but they are applications that could seriously mess with your health, your safety, or your fundamental rights.
And a lot of these high-risk examples are things you might already be dealing with. We're talking about that CV sorting software that decides if you get an interview, or credit scoring systems that say yes or no to your loan. And it also includes super critical things, like the AI used in robotic surgery or for law enforcement.
And because the stakes here are so incredibly high, these systems have to follow some very strict rules. They need to go through rigorous risk assessments, be trained on high-quality data to try and weed out bias, and they have to log everything, so there's a paper trail. But most importantly, there has to be real, meaningful human oversight. A person has to be in the loop.
All right, the third tier. This one is all about transparency. It covers AI systems where the biggest risk isn't direct harm, but actually deception. The danger is that you might not even know you're talking to an AI or looking at something made by an AI, and that could really undermine trust.
The rules here are pretty straightforward. If you're chatting with a chatbot, it has to tell you it's a machine. And if you're looking at a piece of content that was generated by AI, like a deepfake video or image, it has to be clearly labeled. It's all about making sure you know what you're seeing.
And finally, we get to the bottom of the pyramid, minimal or no risk. This is by far the biggest category, and for the most part, these AI systems are left alone to let innovation flourish.
And this is a really important point. It shows the AI Act isn't trying to just stop all AI development. The huge majority of AI we use every single day, like the spam filter in your email or the AI that powers a video game, falls right into this category. And developers can pretty much keep doing their thing. Okay, so outside of that 4-tiered pyramid, the Act actually creates a special category for those super powerful foundational models that are the brains behind tools like ChatGPT. So let's take a look at how the law deals with them. They're called General Purpose AI models, or GPAI for short. And because they're so flexible and can be used as the building blocks for just countless other AI tools, they get their own special set of rules to deal with their potential to have a huge, widespread impact. So companies that build these big models, the teams behind things like ChatGPT or Midjourney, they now have a new to-do list.
They've got to provide detailed documentation on how their models work, they have to follow EU copyright law, and they need to be transparent about what data they used for training. And for the absolute most powerful models out there, they'll face even tougher requirements to manage any large-scale risks.
So you might be thinking, okay, this is a European law. Why should I care if I live somewhere else? Well, here's the thing. Its impact is going to be felt way, way beyond the EU's borders. And there's a really good reason why a law passed in Brussels matters to the rest of us. It's something called the Brussels effect. Remember GDPR, the EU's big data privacy law a few years back? It set such a high standard that companies all over the world just adopted its rules so they could do business in the massive EU market. It basically became the global standard by default. And the big hope or expectation is that the AI Act is going to do the exact same thing for artificial intelligence. Now, don't worry, this isn't all happening tomorrow. The law's actually being rolled out in phases. The ban on those most dangerous AI systems, that kicks in first in early 2025. Then the rules for the big GPI models follow later that year. And most of the other rules for high-risk systems will come into effect through 2026 and 2027. You know, when you boil it all down, this whole thing comes back to one simple goal. Just like the European Commission said, the whole point is to make sure that people can trust what AI has to offer. At its core, this whole law is about building a foundation of safety and reliability for the future of this incredible technology. So that leaves us with the big question. The EU has laid out this incredibly detailed plan to manage the risks of AI while trying not to stifle innovation. And now the rest of the world is watching very closely to see if this becomes the global blueprint for building trustworthy AI. And honestly, the answer to that question is going to shape all of our futures.